Trucks.
Hello.
Here we are in California.
Well, we're back.
Bringing empty pallets to Winnemucca.
They don't even look like empty pallets. Disappointing.
Boo. So yeah, I'm in a pretty good mood today. I got up early, went out and did all of my Sunday chores,
Whoa.
which is practically a Sunday ritual at this point. Look at those palm trees.
Look at them.
Fun fact, in climates where they're actually meant to live, palm trees don't look like that. It is only
Yeah.
because of the drought conditions that they have to endure in southern America that they look like poles with little bits of tree on the end.
I think you shared that fun fact in an early episode of the American Truck Simulator Trucks.
Well, just edit it all out then. You might as well just start all over again. I mean,
It's already been like 5 times. No, not that many times.
well, they're very prettily done anyway. But anyway, I did that. I was like, all right, I've got all my stuff done. I can relax. And then I immediately fell asleep for 3 hours. And I woke up feeling profoundly mystical.
Mystical, huh?
Yeah, and it's always a crapshoot what your brain is going to do when you wake up from a midday nap, particularly a long one. Sometimes the results are just the worst feeling in the entire world, as I'm sure that you can attest.
Yes, waking up and the sun has already set is kind of a uniquely disorienting and demoralizing experience most of the time.
Yep. But thankfully this one, the sun was still very much up, and it shows no sign of going away, even now. And so I was like, okay, I've got this weird sort of euphoria going on. And it lasted maybe, 20 minutes to a half hour as the tendrils of dream lingered. And then it went away and I started my normal day. So I guess that what I want to... This is by way of being a preamble to the conversation that I'm hoping to have today about brain meds. And brain chemistry generally.
These days, you and I are both boys on brain meds.
We are. And an interesting thing about brain meds and brain chemistry is that this incident demonstrates that it is possible to make your brain chemistry do all kinds of wacky things without any drugs whatsoever. Without a single drug, you can fall asleep for 3 hours and wake up feeling like you can talk to God. That's just, preloaded.
Yeah, it's in there.
In there, if the stars align. And everything is so unbelievably complicated and convoluted in this football-shaped lump of wet meat we've got in our skulls that determines how we interpret and approach every single element of our lives.
You've put an image in my head and I want to share it, which is, I wonder like what it would look like, how it would go if you kind of like, chucked a brain and put a little spin on it, like put the spiral on it like you're supposed to do with a football.
With the stem just going flop, 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 flop.
Yeah, or maybe it would kind of like, squish itself into a nice, neat spiral for the duration if you twist it hard enough.
If it depends on if you have the right kind of brain grooves, you could get a tight spiral.
Yeah. Or if you medicated it correctly,
Perhaps. Maybe a smooth brain would be more aerodynamic, but maybe the grooves would, help with that sort of airflow business. I'm not an aerodynamics expert.
These are the questions that neurologists are trying to ask and answer. God bless them.
We're looking for brain donors for precisely this reason, from a variety of walks of life. But I suggested this trucks for a couple of reasons, and one of which was that I had an episode this month. So I'm taking antidepressants. I'm specifically taking Cymbalta or duloxetine, which is not an SSRI, but an SSNI, I believe. And if you ask me what that means, it's selectively inhibiting the reuptake of something. Norepinephrine, potentially? I don't know. I'm not an expert. All I know is that SSRIs have not really worked for me in the past, and this one seems to be doing something.
What's it doing?
Well, here's the thing, I have detected one and only one effect of this medicine. Well, that's actually, as I will mention, I have discovered 2 effects of this medicine. 3. One is that it gives me an upset tummy sometimes.
Okay.
2 is that I no longer seem to be having panic attacks.
That seems good.
Or even super strong anxiety attacks. Given that the world is no less distressing now than it was when I started these meds, and it's been long enough now that I probably would have gotten really upset about something or other. That's pretty good. And I think the larger element of that is that this med is letting me stop my brain from like running away in different directions more easily. And you could say, well, Isaac, isn't that just, sort of numbing yourself, cutting yourself off from... But no, it's not really that.
Who would say
I think
such
that
a thing?
I'm still feeling the same sort of depth of feeling, I think, that I generally do. I've had some, just a second ago, I've had some moments of, poetic insight and beauty while on this drug.
You're referring to the spiraling brain football throw, right?
Of course. That was a revelation. It was... but it's just that if my brain is deciding that it wants to, die or to freak itself into non-workingness or make me do a bunch of stupid things in order to calm myself down, it doesn't as readily do that. And this is a pretty subtle effect. Particularly...
It's funny because it doesn't sound like it would be that subtle.
Well, I mean, it's only like... The thing is that I wasn't before I got on this med, I wasn't like I'm having anxiety attacks all the time kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know about you, but the workings of your own brain can become invisible to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Certainly, the workings of my own brain can become invisible to me.
Especially when we're talking about the brain as opposed to the mind. Yeah, very invisible.
It's like I just wander around feeling emotions about stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I can pick up some patterns along the way, but it's a really complicated world, and who I am also keeps changing. I keep experiencing new things and learning stuff and getting older and all that. And so it's really hard to figure out which, particularly if it's like a buff, it's very difficult to truly put my finger on it, you know?
Yeah.
Even as I say all of this, I'm like, is that really happening, or am I just like wasting a little bit of money and giving myself some ouchy stomachs?
Yeah. I mean, and you're speaking to me right now because, when you proposed this, Trux, my kind of concern with it was like, well, I'm not even really sure what my brain meds do or don't feel like. I think they help. I'm pretty sure they help. I mean, like, the way I'm living my life has certainly changed, but...
It's hard for you to put your finger on what exactly the mechanism by which they have contributed to that is.
Yeah, and it's not like they've made everything easier, It's not like I just now have superpowers and can sit down and decide to do all the productive things every single time, But but what I can tell you is that if I wait too long to take a med or something like that, or if I go to work and too much time passes between me taking the first one and the second one, it's like, oh, I'm useless now, It's like, oh, is this what it used to be like all the time? I mean, that's actually a real question, because it's like, is this what it used to be like all the time, or is it just worse now to not be on the meds than it was before? At least in the initial stages of not being on them,
Probably, it wasn't that bad before, but it was worse than your current baseline is before.
Yeah.
That would be my guess based on observation. And what if you are out there and you're having the depressions, the anxieties, or the executive function problems, and you're considering taking meds, the first thing that I would say to you is that they're not a silver bullet. They simply make things easier in certain ways which you may not even really grasp unless you're really paying attention to what's going on. So if you start taking them and are like, hey, these don't work,
right,
maybe just give it some time, see whether things change around you and whether your overall behavior patterns start to change.
Yes, I would suggest definitely pay more attention to like the circumstances of your day to day than like whether your brain feels any different. I mean, that's kind of like the difference between most prescriptions, I imagine, and like drugs that you would take for recreation, you know. It's not like you're trying to induce some wildly different mind state, you know. It's more like you're nudging the patterns one way or the other.
Yes,
at least that seems to be the case with my particular situation.
I would say that's accurate for me as well. The other thing that I'll mention is that, as sort of a corollary to that, is you may not notice when things are improving, but if you suddenly discontinue your brain meds, you will fucking notice. And that is not, an indication that they work. It is an indication that if you take something that your brain is used to away, all of a sudden, your brain will throw a fit about it.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much true of any medication that affects your brain or any drug that affects your brain.
Yeah.
If you've gotten it used to it. And so please, if you decide to stop taking your medication, taper off because bad things happen otherwise.
Yeah.
But I also want to mention the third thing that I figured out that this medication does, or at least I think this medication does, is that it makes getting drunk a considerably more complicated and difficult prospect for me.
In what way?
Well, I'll tell you what. So I occasionally have drinks over the internet with a friend of mine. The last couple of times that I did it, one was before I got on these meds and the second one was after. And both times I got pretty fucking drunk. I'd say that I drank about the same amount both times. For the second one, there were a couple things different. One of which was it was during the big heat wave, and so I was probably pretty dehydrated. And at first, that's what I thought was going on. But during the second one, I got drunk quicker. I stayed drunk longer. And I had a hangover that lasted a day and a half. And I had a spell of black depression that lasted like 2 weeks.
Oh.
So there is your other PSA. And like if you want an indication that brain medicines do something, that it's not just all quackery, that you're not taking sugar pills. A great way to prove that to yourself is to either mix them with other drugs or to discontinue them suddenly, because that you will fucking notice.
I was worried you were about to say a great way to test that is to mix them with alcohol.
I wouldn't do that. I'm just going to come right out and say that, there was a period of this month where I achieved a kind of it actually was kind of nice, I achieved a kind of mental state where I absolutely did not care about anything at all for like a couple weeks in there.
Like in a good way or a bad way?
I don't think that there is a way that can be bad.
Sure there is. Like total nihilism.
In order to experience that kind of nihilism, you have to that involves like feeling despair and self-pity,
Yeah, I suppose.
And like self-hatred and, if nothing matters and it still means something that nothing matters, that's no fun. But if nothing matters and that doesn't matter, then you can sort of come to grips with the fact that you have to go up and get to work and then you should go home and sleep. And I found all of the time between work and sleep really annoying because it wasn't good for anything.
Mm.
So I mostly tried to go to bed really early.
That sounds like something has mattered, right? It sounds
Well,
like
I could still feel annoyance, mostly at people trying to insist that things mattered. I find that really annoying.
You're describing this as a good mind state, and I'm just not quite vibing with it, to be honest.
Well,
with you.
I'm just going to say that it's for the best that it went away.
Okay.
As most of these things will, nature will heal itself. The brain will right itself. And sometimes I think going into extreme mental states, ideally you do it on purpose, right? Not by accident because you're an idiot who forgot that drugs interact with each other. But when you go into a kind of altered state like that, you can come out of it on the other end with some things changed.
Yeah.
I feel like your brain becomes a little bit more plastic. I assume this is what all of those rich people are out there, like, going to South America and doing their, like, ayahuasca rituals in caves about,
Yeah.
If you give the brain a real kick in the nuts and, like, you do it in a setting where you're going to be sort of immediately directed into a more positive state afterwards, it can retrain you in some ways.
Stand by. We have a pathing. We have
a situation. Oh, that is a situation indeed.
I wonder if I should just gun it. Get through
I
there.
would if I were you.
Let's give it a shot.
Yep. Fuck the police. Those cones are not real. Those cones are imaginary.
I'm pretty sure those are as real as hell. I'm pretty sure they would act like brick walls, but that's okay.
This grass is imaginary. Anywho, you weren't even fined for that. Wow.
Well, the thing that remains to be seen is whether this road is going to work.
I look forward to the revelation. We can do some off-roading maybe, if not.
This is the problem. It looks like this is why there were no problem.
Yeah,
No problem at all.
There's plenty of room there. Come on.
They didn't have to close this road.
They didn't need 2 ambulances for that. Man up and walk it off. Anyway, but yeah, this is sort of the theory behind psilocybin therapy, right? Which just got legalized in Oregon in the last election.
What is that?
It's that we legalized magic mushrooms for therapeutic use.
Oh my god. Okay. Cool.
So you can go to a therapist now, and they can whack you the fuck out, and then they can sort of guide you back into your brain and in a caring and professional way, and with any luck, some of the ingrained maladaptive things can be you can get yourself out of that groove that way. Mm-hmm. This is also incidentally the theory behind electroshock therapy, and it's why that works to the extent that it works.
I imagine the magic mushrooms are a little bit less harmful than the electroshocks.
Yeah, we have decided that the side effects outweigh the benefits on ECT, except in seriously dire circumstances at this point. And with any luck, mushrooms will provide an alternative even in those severe cases. I don't know why I'm saying we, but
us in the healthcare industry.
Yeah, us in the brain biz.
Mm-hmm. Those of us concerned about brains.
Anyway, I think I accidentally did something similar to myself.
Oh yeah.
Although not in as nearly a severe way. But I came out of it feeling largely better about things, which is good, because while it was happening, I felt really bad about stuff. But at the very least, it can help, knock you out of a routine or two.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've talked to about this on Trucks before, but this last attempt isn't my first attempt at brain meds. Mm-hmm. I've tried them on 3 separate occasions before this. Mm-hmm. And
never taken this kind before.
I've never taken this kind before. No, and incidentally, there's because getting on even one is such a fucking hard thing to do. Then the knowledge that you're probably going to have to keep going back and trying different ones until you find one that works for you, and then that one will just randomly stop working at some point because your brain gets too used to it, and you'll have to do another one. That's a hard pill to swallow. But it is unfortunately true. But it's the same with therapists. You're going to have to swallow a lot of therapists before you find one that's going to work for you.
That's true.
But
don't literally swallow your therapist, kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's unprofessional under the best of circumstances. But I've been on various different antidepressants, and while on them, I didn't notice any real effects.
Right.
But I was also a significantly less responsible boy, and getting off of them tended to make things happen.
Bad things, I assume.
Bad things, yes. And then there was the time, and I think I've also talked about this on drugs before, when I read an article on the internet about how lithium was good for depression. And I bought some off of Amazon. Do you remember this?
I don't.
Oh my god. I didn't tell very many people about it because it was so incredibly embarrassing.
What happened on the lithium, Isaac?
I became incredibly depressed, Josh.
Oh no.
It immediately fucking spiked me into the ground, and I spent a lot of time in bed, being absolutely miserable and angry. And then I stopped taking it and emerged, and eventually told the smart people around me what was going on, and they were appalled. They were appalled, Josh.
It's funny how I don't remember that at all. When was this?
This is while I was living with you.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I guess like the
window,
advent of me being in a horrible mood and like being antisocial was not that out of keeping with the ordinary.
It happened, a few times in different ways.
Yeah, but that time it was chemically induced, and I did it to myself. And once again, every brain is different. Every drug works on everybody in a different way. Like for this drug, for example, I have a friend who also went on it, and they told me about how like the withdrawals are the worst thing in the world because you get brain zaps if you even so much as miss, sort of taking it within a 24-hour window. And I've forgotten to take this drug in the morning a few times and taken it when I got back from work at night, and that hasn't happened to me. So God knows,
Yeah.
But wow. As I'm talking about this, I'm realizing that I have been a kind of a psychonaut in my own way in a few different under some different circumstances. And yet, like, up until this last round of drugs and this last round of, interactions and experiments with it, I never really believed that they meant anything or that they worked.
Do you think, I wonder if, and, we'll explore this a little bit more in the addendum trucks that we'll, like, post in the description of this one or something, but I wonder if you feel like getting a little bit more into recreational drugs has changed your relationship with prescription drugs.
It has. I mean, and actually part of that is, as I said, one of the reasons that...
it's actually, I remember the very first time you ever took mushrooms, and you, like, remarked to me afterwards something pretty similar to what you were talking about earlier, about how you feel like there's something to them as a way of kind of knocking your brain out of certain habitual, patterns that it gets into.
Yeah, that was an overall good experience, kids. I took mushrooms and I had a fine time, and nothing went wrong. I looked at my ceiling, and there were patterns on my ceiling, and that was nice. And then I drank some tea, and it was delicious.
Great. What a wonderful day.
I took a shower. The shower was a great experience. I remember it all very fondly.
If only we could live like this all the time, like just taking a shower and just getting a big dumb grin on your face at how nice the shower feels.
Yeah, I mean, we should all be reminded occasionally that being alive and conscious is a miracle.
Yeah, it's just kind of nice.
It's unbelievable that we get to experience this in the great void that is the universe.
And it's funny how, like, just how much you're going to enjoy this symphony of experience is going to just be determined by ever so slight adjustments of the angle you're viewing it from inside the brain.
Yeah, and sometimes all it takes is a new angle to really rekindle your appreciation for it, you know, even if that's just a brief glimpse. But yeah, no, both in terms of I was going to say that now that I take weed edibles for insomnia consistently, that taught me to respect abruptly stopping taking meds, because let me tell you, when you take weed to go to sleep, and you abruptly stop taking weed, you can't sleep anymore, or at least I can't. And also, now that I've been doing it for a while, the last time that I forgot to go out and buy it and had to go without for a night, it caused severe leg cramps to happen.
Interesting.
That's a possibility, folks. Anything that interacts with your nervous system will also interact with your peripheral nervous system. That's just that's a thing. And again, you know, everybody's reaction to stuff is different. But I think that it taught me to respect brain drugs. It taught me to I mean, it helps that weed is like weed isn't subtle, you know?
Yeah.
When you're high, you know you're high. Oh, poor Josh. They're all habituated.
I mean, that's nice in its own way, too. Which, I don't think I did talk about that in the weed trucks that we still haven't posted, did I? How being habituated to weed feels. I mean, it's beside the point, but
I still want to hear it. I mean, it's very much on topic for what we're currently talking about.
It too is a little bit hard to describe in detail. It's, you know, but this is a case where prescription drugs, I think, have altered my relationship with the recreational drug a little bit. It's in that I can sort of I don't get as frustrated as I might have earlier when I like smoke some weed and like don't like immediately go like, whoa, this is so different and weird and cool, you know, like
right.
Instead I'm just like, yeah, this is affecting my mood and my perceptions in ways that I'm pretty well used to at this point, and it might not even really rise to consciousness how it's happening, but I know it's happening and I'm having a good time, so what am I going to complain about, you know?
Yeah. Recently I feel like my mind has sort of, I mean, it also, I switch up what like brand of edible I'm buying, and, you know, switching strains and sources of weed will cut back on that a little bit. I think that my brain is now sufficiently compensated for the for sort of the hyper pattern recognition element of being high, that I barely even notice it anymore, which is something of a loss, but also you hork up a lot of bullshit doing that also.
Sure.
And but the feeling, I've had a couple of really satisfyingly euphoric highs recently.
Yeah.
That almost didn't feel like anything except just calm and nice.
Yeah.
That's something to aspire to.
Definitely.
And you know, there is organic happiness is sparse enough in this world that I don't think there's any problem with putting your thumb on those scales occasionally, particularly when there doesn't seem to be much of a downside, except that you have to keep buying the stuff or else your legs go crazy. That would, I'm sure, make its way to the bottom of the list. It is nothing as bad as what happened when I was intermittently taking Prozac in Japan and started cutting myself, or when I was went cold turkey on antidepressants while my ankle was broken because I couldn't get it together to go to the pharmacy, and literally screamed at my parents at like 8 p.m. for having the TV on. So Nothing that bad.
Good. Just to be clear, kids, we are endorsing weed and magic mushrooms, not heroin and cocaine.
Yeah, the opiate high is one that gets pretty bad pretty quickly, and I cannot speak to cocaine. But I wouldn't if I were you.
Gets expensive, is what I've been observing in the world around me lately.
Well,
people just love their cocaine.
I listen to a true crime podcast, which I listen to. I will say, okay, Crime and Sports, which is a podcast that I listen to, goes over athletes who, sort of fall into criminal behavior at some point in their career, and there are innumerable of them. And a big theme of that is people love cocaine.
Yeah.
And they just really love it. It's the best thing in the world, and it will destroy your life.
It clearly makes you feel like a superhero when you're on it in a way which is not real.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend that one unless you want to lose everything. You do you, but it seems to have a pretty high hit rate in terms of destroying people's lives.
Or at least making them a little worse. I'm surrounded by so many people who are doing cocaine now that I'm not sure I can. I mean, yeah. What I will say is that none of them seem like they're doing better than they would be if they weren't on it.
Right. I mean, the best thing about the best thing that you can do as far as cocaine is concerned is not have enough money to get a lot of it.
Yeah. There you go.
If you have that limiting factor where you don't have that much spare money and then all of that goes on cocaine.
Yeah, that happens very
that'll
easily.
prevent it from getting too out of control.
Yeah. Anyway.
Don't be rich and acquire a cocaine habit. That seems to go very badly for people.
Yeah. I wonder what cocaine would be like on ADHD brain. I don't intend to find out. But,
please don't.
I see what people get like when they're on Ritalin. And they get pretty fucking hyper, and I sure don't.
Recreationally.
Yeah. And I sure don't.
Also, can I just say?
Yeah.
This is another drug PSA. If you're taking Ritalin or Lexapro or whatever recreationally, fucking don't.
Yeah, probably don't.
Because it makes, not for any health reasons, but because it makes it a lot harder for people who need the stuff to get their hands on it.
Oh my god, dude. It's so. Yeah, I'm fucking lucky as hell, considering how paranoid my psychiatrist was at first about, like, just my roommates stealing my Ritalin from me. Like, now I work surrounded by people who were coke addicts, and, like, she has not mentioned it. Which, that's just lucky. I don't know. Does she trust me now or something? But yeah, it's insane how locked down this stuff is. Especially considering, like, how, I mean, like, as I say, it appears to be different for others, but when I take it, I'm like, why would anyone go out of their way to pay a lot of money for this? Like, it makes me feel exactly the same, but, like, a little more productive, and that's it.
Yeah, which suggests that you need it.
Yeah.
Whereas the last time I took some, it made me feel like I just drank too much coffee.
Right.
Now get your stimulants somewhere else, motherfuckers. There are people who actually have a medical need for this, and you're making their lives harder. Take caffeine pills if that's what you need. But
what's our point? We're getting close to the big red flag here.
Wow. I don't think that I necessarily. This is more of a series of PSAs. But,
yeah.
If you want to take something away from this, first of all, we are meat. I know I keep saying this, but
you can season your meat all kinds of ways.
Yeah, exactly. Screwing around and seasoning my meat has really brought that home to me. Your mood can really affect, like, just how you interpret the same events in drastically different ways.
Everything
like,
about how the world seems.
If you're feeling anxious and paranoid, the exact same stimuli can you know,
Yeah.
move you to fuck up friendships or, you know, not take advantage of opportunities or what have you. So if your brain keeps fucking you over, please feel empowered to change it.
Yeah.
You know, and nudge it in different ways.
It'll be a frustrating process, but I mean, y'all have fucking seen me go through that process of trying to get on something, and it was so frustrating. But you know what? I can attest that even though I don't really know exactly what the drugs are doing for me, my life is just a lot better than it was before. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think we've done a good job of explaining, like, what, if I do say so myself, of explaining, like, you know, it's tough and there can be drawbacks and you can make mistakes and have bad times. But I think it's still worth investigating if your baseline state is not conducive to leading the life that you want to live.
If your baseline state is conducive to that, then check out weed. It'll probably be awesome for you.
Whatever, you know. I'm not a weed evangelist.
I am,
but neither do I think that weed is bad. I think that I've been very happy that weed has entered my life, and I seem to be just as functional in most respects that I was before it, if not more so.
Yeah.
So,
I will say I have sometimes had my I was gonna da, but then I got high, but then I got high, but then I got high. That's
happened to me far more often with roguelikes than with weed. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you put the two together that the problems really start.
I don't know if I've ever even tried that. I think I'm not going to.
No, you told me once about playing Enter the Gungeon.
Oh my God! Speaking of
your like initial weed trips,
the very first time that I got high, I spent like 20 minutes dodge rolling back and forth in the lobby of Enter the Gungeon because I was like, "Oh, damn, that's satisfying."
And you had a thought that you told me about it, and you were like, "This is an embarrassingly mundane thought," but I was like, "No, but it's exactly true though, and not everybody gets it, which is that, you know, being good at video games is mostly a matter of being good at experiencing them."
I have no idea what that means right now, which is a testament to the effect of marijuana.
Well, hold on. I want to sit with that for a second, because that is an interesting little portrayal of the cycle of marijuana, where you take it and you have a thought, which is a slightly weird thought, and then you get off the drug and you're like, well, that thought was stupid and pointless. And everyone gets it intuitively anyway. And then you're off the drug for a little while longer, and you're like, what does that mean? Why did I think that? You know, we are never good judges of the quality of our own thoughts, perhaps.
True. I only have a few thoughts about the quality of my insights, which I'm sure of, and one of which is that my Eternal Live blog is really good. Also, I was right about Enter the Gungeon being really good, having 100%ed it recently. That game is a fucking masterpiece. And dodge rolling in it really does feel good, which is good because it was published by Dodge Roll Games, and if they made the thing they're named after not feel good,
that
would be a shame.
Tight squeeze this parking job.
Yeah, I was like, this is a particularly difficult one, but you seem to be handling it with aplomb.
Well, we'll see. I've had to make a few attempts already.
Yeah, but I think that you would have had to do that regardless.
We are on the right track, let us say.
I'm enthusiastic about how it's going so far. Yeah. Also, while we're watching a truck go back and forth, I continue to enjoy the VTuber experience, HoloLive and the assorted VTuber folks. I've sometime in the last month I've managed to get over my shame about enjoying VTuber content, and am now at this point just wholeheartedly enjoying this
just a stand.
What?
I said just a stand. Not what the yo.
Oh, sure, yeah, that'll work for the truck next door.
I've never been given leeway like this before, and
that's ridiculous.
I'm almost angry about it.
It clearly isn't good enough.
This is going to cause problems for
very
everybody.
Clearly isn't good enough. I don't know what they're talking about.
Well, let's do it.
All right, good job.
Drugs.
Drugs, excellent. Yes, and we will as an accompanying piece here, whether as an audio download or whatever, we will put up the
secret weed trucks. We did it with trucks. It's not a secret anymore. Whatever.
Having sometime in the last couple of months recommended weed to my boss as a sleep aid, I no longer feel any compunction about putting this.
I think weed was not legal in New York when we recorded that episode, and now it is. Or maybe it had just become legal, and I was still a baby about it, about saying I smoke weed on the internet. But whatever, man. Smoke weed every day.
Exactly. or I ingest it another way because that's not good for your lungs.
That's true. I cough a lot more than I used to.
Yeah, take some edibles now that you can buy them legally.
You know what? They're not easy to find yet. It's still a bit of a trick to find an actual legal dispensary. I think that whole thing is still getting started around here.
I'm sure that when it does, there will be one on literally every street corner of Brooklyn.
Anyway, if the weed talk was your favorite part of this episode, you're gonna love what's in the description. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.